Today we are going to discuss about a new topic in microeconomics about the production process. So anybody working in a manufacturing area, any production related area will hopefully benefit from this knowledge. So this topic has two distinctive parts. Part 1, we are going to discuss about production process. And here we are going to use different measurements to measure the efficiency in production process. One is going to be production function. The second one is going to be average product of labor. And the third one is going to be marginal product of labor. And so as you read through your PowerPoints and work on the practical application, please pay attention to how these measurements are calculated and used in assessing the performance, the efficiency related to the production process. Then we are going to move to the second part, which is going to be about the cost of production. What are the dollar cost of production associated to the production process above? And here we are going to discuss about the total cost of production. Total cost of production, and here the measurements are going to be total fixed cost, total variable cost, and total cost. And then we are going to discuss about average cost or cost per unit, average cost per unit. And we are going to have average fixed cost. How much is my fixed cost per unit? Average variable cost, how much is my variable cost per unit? And average total cost, how much is my cost per unit, total cost per unit. And finally, we are going to discuss about the marginal cost as an additional cost per unit in relationship with average variable cost and average total cost. The notation is marginal cost. So basically, this is a quick summary of the topics to be covered in this module. Now let's as you move towards your calculations, applications, and reading the theoretical concepts, let me give you a quick start here, kind of a quick diagram of a production process. Let's suppose we are engaged in the production process of any good, really. Let's suppose we produce cars. Car production. So let's see, what do we need in the car production process? We are going to need some inputs of production. Inputs of production like raw materials, the notation is usually capital M. Then we are going to need some kind of capital like buildings, machinery, technology. The notation for capital usually is K. Then we are going to need labor. And here labor can be factory labor or the people hired in the production process, and then we have executive labor. For factory labor, usually the notation is L. Of course, we need some land where we build or buy or rent our buildings to have our plant and so forth. Now, these inputs are going to be all these inputs are going to be engaged in the production. And based on the production process, what we are going to have outputs, for which the notation in economics is Q, which is really our units. In our case, cars that we produce. So now when we discuss about the production process and outputs, of course we produce cars to be able to sell and make some profits. My observation is that sometimes students are confused between the concepts of revenue or sales for the business and the profits. So let's clarify those two since we are going to use them a lot during this course. When we define the revenues or sales in dollars are defined as the price of the product times quantity or units. So this is again in units, Q, they are the units produced. How many cars we produce times P. P is the price per unit in dollars. So this is how we define the revenues. And second, we are going to have profits defined as total revenue, this revenue is here, minus total costs of production. Revenue minus cost, that's going to be our profit. And from your accounting class, the profits from the income statement is the one called net income. The same concept. We call it profits or net income in your income statement, but that's the way it's calculated. You remember in your income statement, you start with sales, then you subtract cost of goods sold, depreciation, administrative, taxes, interest, and so forth until you get to your net income. So now that we clarified those two concepts, one thing I want to remind to you as you read through your PowerPoints again is that some of these inputs are considered fixed inputs, and some of these inputs used in production process are considered variable inputs. What's the difference between fixed and variable input? Well, a fixed input stays the same, is constant regardless of the level of production, while a variable input changes with the level of production. For example, a variable cost related to a variable input is going to increase when we produce more, or is going to decrease when we produce less. So based on these definitions, let's see, raw material is going to be considered a variable cost, because the more we produce, the more raw materials we need. Capital is going to be considered a fixed cost, because with the capital, buildings, machinery, technology, we can either buy it and then we pay mortgage, or we can rent it. This is why it's considered fixed cost for some specific level of production. Now later, if the company grows, then we have an increase in the fixed cost. We buy more machinery, more buildings, we extend. Labor. Factory labor is considered usually variable cost, because the more we produce, the more people we have to hire to produce. And executive labor, it's again for a specific level of production, is considered a fixed cost, because for this level of growth we have hired so many executive people. And land is considered mostly a fixed cost, because this is related with a concept in which you either purchase and you pay mortgage for the land, or you rent it. Either way, it's a fixed cost. So in a nutshell, this is some quick summary and some concepts to work with while you read and work towards your working problems, application problems, and finally for your homework. Now some short piece of advice. I would strongly suggest you to work through all the assigned problems from the textbook before you attempt to do the homework, so you'll feel more confident with Excel first. You can easily use the Excel spreadsheet to work on your homework and submit your homework, and that's explained in detail in some of the videos I posted for you. And feel more confident with calculations.